This song is called Alice's Restaurant, and it's about Alice and the restaurant, but Alice's Restaurant is not the name of the restaurant. That's just the name of the song, and that's why I called the song Alice's Restaurant. Well, you can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. Yeah, you can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. Walk right in, it's around the back, just a half a mile from the railroad track. Yeah, you can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. Now it all started 2 Thanksgivings ago. Was on 2 years ago on Thanksgiving. My friend and I went to visit Alice at the restaurant, but Alice doesn't live in the restaurant. She lives in the church nearby the restaurant, in the bell tower with her husband, Ray, and Fasha the dog. And living in the bell tower like that, they got a lot of room downstairs where the pews used to be in. And having all that room, seeing as how they took out all the pews, they decided that they didn't have to take out the garbage for a long time. We got up there, we found all the garbage in there, and we decided it would be a friendly gesture for us to take the garbage down to the city dump. So we took that half-ton of garbage, put it in the back of a red VW microbus, took shovels and rakes and implements of destruction, and headed down towards the city dump. Well, we got there, and there was a big sign and a chain across the dump saying, "Closed for Thanksgiving." And we had never heard of a dump closed on Thanksgiving before, so with tears in our eyes, we drove off into the sunset, looking for another place to put the garbage. We didn't find one, until we came to a side road. And off the side of that side road, there was another 15-foot cliff, and at the bottom of that cliff, there was another pile of garbage. And we decided that one big pile is better than 2 little piles, and rather than bring that one up, we decided to throw ours down. That's what we did, and we drove back to the church, had a Thanksgiving dinner that couldn't be beat, went to sleep, and didn't get up until the next morning when we got a phone call from Officer Obie. He said, "Kid, we found your name on an envelope at the bottom of a half-ton of garbage. I just wanted to know if you had anything to do with it." And I said, "Yes, sir, Officer Obie. I cannot tell a lie. I put that envelope under the garbage." After speaking to Obie for about 45 minutes on the telephone, we finally arrived at the truth of the matter and said that we had to go down and pick up the garbage, and also had to go down and speak to him at the police officer station. So we got in the red VW microbus with the shovels and the rakes and the implements of destruction and headed on down towards the police officer station. Now, friends, there was only 1 or 2 things that Obie could have done at the police station, and the first was that he could have given us a medal for being so brave and honest on the telephone, which wasn't very likely, and we didn't expect it. The other thing that he could have done was bawled us out and told us never to be seen driving garbage around the vicinity again, which is what we expected. But when we got to the police officer station, there was a third possibility that we hadn't even counted on, and we was both immediately arrested, handcuffed. And I said, "Obie, I don't think I can pick up the garbage with these handcuffs on." He said, "Shut up, kid. Get in the back of the patrol car." And that's what we did. Sat in the back of the patrol car and drove to the, quote, "scene of the crime," unquote. I want to tell you about the town of Stockbridge, Massachusetts, where this happened here. They got 3 stop signs, 2 police officers, and 1 police car. But when we got to the scene of the crime, there was 5 police officers and 3 police cars, being the biggest crime of the last 50 years. And everybody wanted to get in the newspaper story about it. And they was using all kinds of cop equipment that they had hanging around the police officer station. They was taking plaster tire tracks, footprints, dog-smelling prints, and they took 27 8x10 color glossy photographs with circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one explaining what each one was to be used as evidence against us. Took pictures of the approach, the getaway, the northwest corner, the southwest corner, and that's not to mention the aerial photography. After the ordeal, we went back to the jail. Obie said he was going to put us in the cell. Said, "Kid, I'm going to put you in the cell." I want your wallet and your belt. And I said, Obi, I can understand you wanting your wallet and your belt, but I don't have any money to spend in the cell. But what do you want my belt for? And he said, kid, we don't want any hangings. I said, Obi, did you think I was going to hang myself for littering? Obi said he was making sure, and friends, Obi was, because he took the toilet seat out so I couldn't hit myself over the head and drown. And he took out the toilet paper so I couldn't bend the bars, roll out the toilet paper out the window, slide down the roll, and have an escape. Obi was making sure, and it was about 4 or 5 hours later that Alice, remember Alice? This is a song about Alice. Alice came by with a few nasty words to Obi on the side, bailed us out of jail. We went back to the church, had another Thanksgiving dinner that couldn't be beat, and didn't get up until the next morning when we all had to go to court. We walked in, sat down. Obi came in with the 27 8x10 color glossy pictures with circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one and sat down. Man came in and said, all rise. We stood up, and Obi stood up with the 27 8x10 color glossy pictures, and the judge walked in, sat down with a seeing eye dog, and then at the 27 8x10 color glossy photos with circles and arrows and a picture on the back of each one and a paragraph, and looked at the seeing eye dog, and then the 27 8x10 color glossy pictures with circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one, and began to cry. Because Obi came to the realization that it was a typical case of American blind justice, and there wasn't nothing he could do about it. And the judge wasn't going to look at the 27 8x10 color glossy pictures with the circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one explaining what each one was to be used as evidence against us. And we was fined $50. Had to pick up the garbage and the snow, but that's not what I came to tell you about. I came to talk to you about the draft. So they got a building down in New York City. It's called Whitehall Street, where you walk in, you get injected, inspected, detected, infected, neglected, and selected. I went down to get my physical examination one day, and I walked in, I sat down, got good and drunk the night before, so I looked and felt my best when I went in that morning, because I wanted to look like the all-American kid from New York City. Man, I wanted to feel like I wanted to be the all-American kid from New York. And I walked in, sat down, I was hung down, brung down, hung up, and all kinds of mean, nasty, ugly things. And I walked in and sat down, and they gave me a piece of paper. It said, kid, see the psychiatrist, room 604. And I went up there, I said, shrink, I want to kill. I mean, I want to kill. I want to see blood and guts and gore and veins in my teeth, eat dead burnt bodies. I mean, kill, 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 kill. And I started jumping up and down and yelling, kill, 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 kill. And he started jumping up and down with me, and we was both jumping up and down and yelling, kill, kill. And the sergeant came over, pinned a medal on me, sent me down the hall and said, you're a boy. Didn't feel too good about it. Proceeded on down the hall, getting more injections, inspections, detections, neglections, and all kinds of stuff they was doing to me at the thing there. And I was there for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. I was there for a long time, going through all kinds of mean, nasty, ugly things. And I was just having a tough time there, and they was inspecting, injecting every part of me, and they was leaving no part untouched. Proceeded through. When I finally came to see the last man, I walked in and sat down after the whole big thing there, and I walked up and said, what do you want? He said, kid, I only got one question. Have you ever been arrested? And I proceeded to tell him the story of Alice's restaurant Massacree with full orchestration and 5-part harmony and stuff like that. And he stopped me right there and said, kid, did you ever go to court? And I proceeded to tell him the story of the 27 8x10 color glossy photos with the circles and the arrows and the paragraph on the back of each one. And he stopped me right there and said, kid, I want you to go over there and sit down on the bench that says Group W. Now, kid. And I walked over to the bench there, and there's Group W, where they put you if you might not be moral enough to join the army after committing your special crime. And there was all kinds of mean, nasty, ugly-looking people there on the bench. Mother rapers, father stabbers, father rapers sitting there right on the bench next to me. And they was mean and nasty, ugly, and there was horrible crime-type guys sitting there on the bench. And and the meanest, nastiest, ugliest one comes up to me. The meanest father raper of them all was coming up to me. He was mean and ugly and nasty and horrible and all kinds of things, and he sat down next to me and said, "Kid, what'd you get?" I said, "I didn't get nothing. I had to pay $50 to pick up the garbage." He said, "What were you arrested for, kid?" And I said, "Littering." And they all kind of moved away from me on the bench there, and the hairy eyeball and all kinds of mean, nasty things, till I said, "and creating a nuisance." And then they all came back, shook my hand, and we had a great time on the bench, talking about crime, mother stabbing, father raping, all kinds of groovy things that we was talking about on the bench. And everything was fine. We were smoking cigarettes and all kinds of things until the sergeant came over, had some paper in his hand, held it up and said, "Kids, this piece of paper's got 47 words, 37 sentences, 58 words. We want to know the detail of the crime, time of the crime, and everything you got to say pertaining to the crime. I want to know the arresting officer's name and any other kind of thing." And talked for 45 minutes. Nobody understood a word that he said. We had fun filling out the forms and playing with the pencils on the bench there, and I filled out the Massacree with the 4-part harmony, and I wrote it down there just like it was, and everything was fine. Put down the pencil, and I turned over the piece of paper, and there on the other side, in the middle of the other side, away from everything else on the other side, in parentheses, capital letters, quotated, read the following words: "Kid, have you rehabilitated yourself?" I walked over to the sergeant and I said, "Sergeant, you got a lot of damn gall to ask me if I've rehabilitated myself. I mean, I'm just sitting there on the Group W bench because you want to know if I'm moral enough to join the army, burn women, kids, houses, and villages after being a litter bug?" He looked at me and said, "Kid, we don't like your kind, and we're going to send your fingerprints off to Washington. And friends, somewhere in Washington is some little folder. It's a study in black and white of my fingerprints. And the only reason I'm singing you this song now is because you may know somebody in a similar situation, or you may be in a similar situation. And if you're in a situation like that, there's only one thing you can do, and that's walk into the shrink, wherever you are, and say, 'Shrink, you can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant,' and walk out. You know, if one person, just one person does it, they may think he's really sick and they won't take him. And if two people do it in harmony, they may think they're both faggots and they won't take them either. And if 3 people do it, can you imagine 3 people walking in, singing a bar of Alice's restaurant and walking out? They may think it's an organization. And can you imagine 50 people a day? I said 50 people a day walking in, singing a bar of Alice's restaurant and walking out. Friends, they may think it's a movement. And that's what it is, the Alice's Restaurant Anti-Massacree movement. And all you got to do is join in and sing the next time it comes around on the guitar with feeling. So wait for it to come around on the guitar and sing along with me when it does. Here it comes. Well, you can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. Yeah, you can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. Walk right in, it's around the back, just a half a mile from the railroad track. You can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant.